Beneath the mist that coils over England's hills and valleys, shadows move where maps end and folklore begins. The stories we tell of Britain's legendary creatures and cryptids are comforting in their familiarity, but they are also incomplete, carefully polished masks over something far stranger, far more unsettling. We speak of creatures that vanish with the morning sun, of beasts glimpsed at the edges of lakes, forests, and forgotten moors. Yet for every tale passed down in whispers, there is a darker question rarely asked. Why did these legends endure? And what truths might they conceal about the fears, obsessions, and histories of the people who first whispered them? Consider the beast of Bodmin Moor. For decades, sightings of a large, black feline prowling Cornwall's remote moors were dismissed as folklore. Yet livestock was found slaughtered with precision, and eyewitnesses described a creature too large and too fluid to be a domestic cat, moving with a predatory intelligence that seemed almost human. Official records reveal that government agencies conducted covert investigations, quietly compiling reports that hinted at escaped exotic animals. Yet locals insist that the attacks predated any such arrivals. Could the beast be more than an escaped predator? Or was it perhaps a mirror of collective fear? A projection of anxieties rooted in the decline of rural England, the disappearance of wild landscapes, and the creeping certainty that the world is no longer quite ours? Then there is the phenomenon of the Owlman of Cornwall. First documented in the 1970s, witnesses spoke of a humanoid owl, wings spanning terrifying breadth, watching from church towers and cliff tops. Skeptics dismissed it as misidentified birds or even mass hysteria. Yet these sightings share an unsettling consistency. Observers report a silence so profound it seemed to absorb sound, a presence that felt sentient rather than animal. Folklorists traced the tale back to ancient Cornish myths of the Owl of Death, a harbinger of misfortune. But why would so many credible adults, often alone, see something so otherworldly at exactly the same locations over decades? The story becomes not just one of a strange creature, but of how human perception, memory, and expectation shape encounters that teeter on the edge of the real and the imagined. The Lake District whispers of the Tatzelwurm, a serpent-like cryptid with feline or lizard-like features, slithering in hidden tarns and undergrowth. Its sightings date back centuries, often in journals of naturalists more concerned with credibility than legend. These reports reveal a fascinating contradiction. The creatures are described with biological precision, scales, eyes, and movement patterns, yet vanish without leaving traceable evidence. Why did the reports persist in the margins of scientific observation rather than being buried in folklore? Perhaps the Tatzelwurm is a reminder that even in the age of rationality, human fear and curiosity can conspire to preserve the impossible. A kind of moral and psychological experiment, performed collectively across generations. Even more disturbing is the account of the Black Shuck, the spectral hound of East Anglia, often described as a monstrous dog with eyes like burning coals. It was said to foretell death or disaster. Parish records from the 16th and 17th centuries describe villagers encountering a large, black dog during thunderstorms, sometimes resulting in sudden fatalities. The line between myth and historical event blurs here. Are these records literal witnesses to a supernatural predator? Or is the story a socially coded warning, a metaphor for plague, civil unrest, or moral panic? What if the terror of the Black Shuck was not invented, but observed? Something beyond human comprehension that left only fear and death in its wake? Across the north, tales of giants and forest spirits linger. The Fenland Goliaths, for instance, were said to stalk the wetlands of Lincolnshire, leaving deep footprints and overturned carts. Surveyors' logs and newspaper accounts from the 1800s note that such footprints were occasionally measured and catalogued, yet no physical evidence ever surfaced. Why would officials take the time to record something unprovable? Some historians suggest that these reports reflect psychological displacement, the projection of industrial anxieties onto a waning rural landscape, a subconscious rebellion against mechanization and social control. And yet every detail, every witness statement, every careful sketch insists upon a reality that defies complete rationalization. Even the familiar dragons, mermaids, fairies carry secrets hidden in plain sight. The Lambton Worm of County Durham is more than a cautionary tale. Historical documents indicate ritualistic performances linked to its myth, sacrifices, and localized power struggles disguised as legend. What begins as a story for children or travelers, innocent and quaint, can often be traced to tangible human acts. Greed, cruelty, and ritualized displays of authority cloaked in narrative. The cryptid is never just a creature. It is a lens through which communities negotiate morality, fear, and control, shaping behavior in ways both subtle and catastrophic. The deeper one probes, the less these legends are about monsters and more about humanity itself. Each sighting, every terror-inducing tale, carries with it a trace of psychology, a shard of history, an ethical shadow. The creatures persist because they exploit gaps in perception and knowledge, existing where the human mind cannot fully rationalize, and yet insists on remembering. Perhaps this is why accounts remain maddeningly resistant to explanation, because to fully define them would be to confront the dark interiors of our own fear, superstition, and complicity in our myths. Even the skepticism applied to these stories reveals something unsettling. Scientists dismiss, folklorists contextualize, the media sensationalizes, but none can entirely erase the disquieting consistency of witnesses who lived ordinary lives until confronted with the extraordinary. These creatures, whether born of flesh, legend, or collective imagination, expose the tension between rationality and the uncanny, between history as recorded and history as felt. Why does the human mind insist on such vividness in the absence of proof? And why, across centuries, do the same stories, the same silhouettes in the fog, refuse to fade entirely from memory? By the time one leaves Cornwall's cliffs, East Anglia's windswept fields, or the shadowed tarns of the Lake District, the line between folklore and history becomes not merely blurred but morally ambiguous. We are left with fragments, footprints too large for dogs, eyes too bright for cats, wings too vast for owls. We are left with questions we cannot answer. What truly lurks at the edges of perception? And what do these legends reveal about the choices, fears, and obsessions of those who first told them? Perhaps the monsters of Britain were never only monsters. Perhaps they were warnings, witnesses, or echoes, residues of events and emotions too complex, too uncomfortable to record in any official ledger. And so the mist returns, silently, inexorably, rolling over moors and tarns, cloaking hills and forests. The stories continue, unclaimed yet undeniable, insisting upon a presence that logic cannot contain. One wonders if history itself prefers the shadows, leaving us only glimpses, only dread, only the haunting sense that the world has always been stranger and darker than we are willing to admit. In the end, perhaps the creatures of Britain are not legends at all, but questions of perception, of morality, of memory. And in that question lies the true terror, not of claws or fangs, but of the truths we refuse to face. The fog swallows the moors, and somewhere within it, eyes watch silently, patiently, waiting for those willing to see.